The Titans have 12 players set to be free agents on the defensive side of the ball. We are going to go through them one by one right now and answer the question, should the Titans re-sign this guy or not? This is the Music City Audible. Let's get to it. Welcome everyone to another episode of the Music City Audible Podcast presented by Broadway Sports Media in partnership with 440 Sports. I'm Justin Graver. With me as always is Justin Melo. Justin, we got 12 defensive free agents, but before we start with that, let's talk about the franchise tag really quick. Franchise tag deadline Tuesday passed already. Most of the receivers either re-signed or got franchise tagged. What does this mean for the Titans in the free agency market? Are they going after Calvin Ridley because of the connection to Nick Holtz? Is Calvin Ridley going to work out a long-term deal with Jacksonville in the next 5 days? Are they going to go after Marquez Valdes-Scantling? Or are they just going to sign some... Is Hollywood Brown an option? Are they going to sign some dumb veteran and call it a day? The franchise tag has really wiped out the wide receiver market with T. Higgins, Michael Pittman Jr., Mike Evans resigning. What are the Titans going to do about this? Anything? Nothing?
They're going to do something, but I don't know what it's going to be. Right? I think we'll have to see, but... A lot of those guys, as expected, Antoine Winfield Jr., Brian Burns, Mike Evans. I think something got done with Michael Pittman Jr. I'm not sure, but that's expected to be happening. So, T. Higgins obviously got the tag really early in the process. So, I think that day sort of went as expected, right? The guys that were never going to hit the market aren't going to. And but hey, I mean, a lot of tackles, a lot of guards, a lot of centers. Couple receivers we knew wouldn't get the tag, like you said, are still going to be out there. I'll end by saying this. I don't think the Titans are shocked by anything that happened prior to the tag deadline.
I would say that the Titans will not go after Calvin Ridley. That's all I'm going to say on it at this moment in time. This is a little tease. We're going to do a longer episode on free agency preview now that the tag has passed, coming out soon. But before we get to that, let's talk about the guys that were under contract for the Titans last season who are not going to be anymore starting this year. And we're going to go top down in order of how much money they were making on in the last year of their contract with Tennessee. So
excluding Denico Autry, right?
Excluding
Because we covered him
Autry
on the Derrick Henry episode a week and a half ago.
Go back, I think, 3 or 4 episodes in your feed. Should the Titans re-sign Derrick Henry or Denico Autry is the name of that podcast. If you want to hear about Autry, tune in there. We are going to start here today with linebacker Azeez Al-Shaair. Should the Titans bring him back?
I'm going to say yes. I feel like I'm going to say no to a lot of the players on this list.
Yeah.
I thought Azeez played pretty damn good football. Consistent. Signed a 1-year prove-it deal worth $5 million. You know, we know the story. Was sort of stuck behind Dre Greenlaw and Fred Warner there. Anytime he got extended playing time, I think there was at least 1 year where he was up like a primary starter because of injury. Played well there. Came here now as a full-time starter from week 1 and played really well. Nothing shocks me about the way that he played, and he's earned a long-term deal. I'd say he's worth like $7 million per year, like a 3-year, $21 million deal. If I was the Titans, I'd do something like that. But if I was a betting sort of making a prediction, I have a feeling he's not going to be back. Just a weird way that I feel. I don't know that that's going to be the Titans' choice. Let me clarify. We saw Dre Greenlaw go down at the end of the Super Bowl. You know, the 49ers, that's going to take a while to get back from that. 49ers going to want some insurance at that position. He was there for like the playoff games in San Fran, still has a special bond with his teammates over there. And then you look at a team like the Houston Texans. I hate to say it, but they really need an inside linebacker. Obviously, he played under DeMeco Ryans for a number of years. Just think there's a lot of suitors. It wouldn't shock me if he at least wants to test the market. Maybe he ends up back in Tennessee if it doesn't materialize the way he wants it to. But I don't think he's going to re-sign with the Titans sort of before the window opens. Probably wants to see what's out there at least.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I would love for the Titans to be able to bring him back. If they don't bring him back, they have basically no one that they can play on the field at linebacker.
Dr. Gibby.
Dr. Gibby's on the list, buddy. We're about to get to him.
Oh, that's right. He's like an ERFA, though, or something, I think.
Yeah, we'll get to Dr. Gibby. He's actually 11 out of 12 on the list here, so we'll get to him in a minute. But I think they absolutely should do what they can to bring Azeez back. I'm not saying overpay him, but try to bring him back. He led the team in tackles this past year, had a career high in tackles. He was a great player at that position, brought a lot of fire, had a handful of dumb penalties throughout the year, but that happens when guys play with the kind of passion that he plays with.
He was 4th in the league in tackles, I think, by the way.
And, we've been talking a little bit about the connection between Denard Wilson and Patrick Queen. There could be something happening there. You're on the record saying you don't think they should overpay that level to a linebacker like that. I may have disagreed, but if they don't get Azeez Al-Shaair, it really puts them in a position where they're going to have to go overpay for somebody or spend a draft pick that they don't want to spend on this position. So I think it's an important position that they need to fill, and bringing back one of your own guys is the easiest way to do it. Don't create a hole that you will have to fill when you can bring Azeez back.
They've got enough of those.
But it may not be up to them, as you said, so we'll have to see how that one goes. Next guy on the list, cornerback Sean Murphy-Bunting, also a one-year signing in Rand Carthon's first year as the GM. I'll say this is another guy I think they should try to bring back. I don't think he is a elite shutdown corner. No one's mistaking him for that. He made a handful of great plays last year, a couple nice interceptions. He was overall a plus, I think, on the field. Yeah, he got beat a few times. That happens to cornerbacks. That's part of the play in the position. But if you can get him on a reasonable contract, solidify one of your outside corner positions with a savvy veteran like him, go after somebody like Ronald Darby or another free agent to cover the other cornerback position, I think you'd be set up nicely there to not feel like you need to draft one early. So as we mentioned on our last podcast, you can focus on those two greater positions of need that are deepest in this class with wide receiver and offensive tackle. You don't have to take a cornerback at 38. But if they let Sean Murphy-Bunting walk, they got to find two outside guys basically on the free agent market to feel comfortable heading into the draft that you don't have holes to plug with rookies. So I say re-sign Sean Murphy-Bunting if you can.
I don't feel as strongly as you do about bringing him back. I get the argument for why. You've already got so many holes at corner. If you want to go out, like if you're going to bring him back, this is how I would do it. I'd re-sign him. I'd sign a really good corner to be my corner one. And then I'd draft like a third or fourth round corner that can sort of push Murphy-Bunting for that number 2 spot. And I say number 2 because McCreary should be the nickel regardless of how that plays out. I thought he was pretty inconsistent. I think they can do better at outside corner than him. There were a couple of games he got, flat out abused in all honesty. And it's one of those positions you're going to take your bumps and bruises. I get that, but I think they can do better. If they bring him back, it better be obviously as your number 2. You better go out and get a number 1, and then I'd bring in competition. Like, I think they can do better.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens. I mean, I don't feel super strongly about it. I just, again, the same thing with Azeez Al-Shaair. It's like you don't want to create another hole that you then have to go fill. I mean, it's money spent either way. You spend it on a guy to bring back, or you go spend it on someone who played for a different team last year, but you're going to have to fill those positions somehow. And ideally, you don't want to do that in the draft, given your other needs and, the strength of certain positions in the draft. So next guy on the list is Terrell Edmunds, who was acquired by trade with the Kevin Byard deal.
Yes.
His contract was expiring, though, so now he will be a free agent. He played solidly. I mean, I didn't really notice him too much because the Titans were bad, and it was hard to really care too much about individual defensive players that have never lived up to their draft billing like Terrell Edmunds. But what do you think about the Titans bringing him back?
Quality rotational safety, better playing towards the line of scrimmage, doesn't have the speed or the range to play man-to-man coverage or as a single high kind of guy. I'm not going to spend a lot of time because I think if they want to bring him back as like their third safety, I think that's fine and fair. I think played well enough to earn that sort of role, but it's not stopping me from signing a bona fide starting caliber safety because that's what they need opposite Amani Hooker, and he's not that guy, but he's a fine number 3.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. If they can get him on a reasonable deal to come back, do it. If not, you're probably going to go after a much higher level safety anyway. Titans recently linked to Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who played under Denard Wilson in Philadelphia. So obviously connections
Geno
there.
Stone, who played this past year under him in Baltimore. There are a couple of guys with good connections.
Hell, sign both of those guys and have a 3 deep safety rotation, and then you don't need Terrell Edmunds at all. But yeah, I'm kind of indifferent on if they feel like they should bring him back, then go for it. But I don't have a strong opinion either way. All right, next guy on the list is one of the biggest disappointments of the season. Cornerback Kristian Fulton.
Kristian Fulton. You didn't even have to say it.
I didn't have to say it. I'll just keep this one brief. No.
Yeah, no. I mean, the relationship, I know Vrabel's not there anymore, but I think the relationship has clearly run its course. He didn't seem very happy to be here this past season, to be blunt. I think he knew what everyone was saying about him. It got under his skin. I don't think he wants to be here. No interest. A pick of the previous regime, the previous GM, the previous head coach, injury-prone guy that doesn't seem to always have the best attitude, in all honesty, or approach. I can't see the new. You listen to Denard Wilson speak. I don't really see that relationship being a great one. There's no way I see them bringing him back.
Friend of the pod. Once upon a time, we did a film session with Kristian Fulton breaking down his best plays at LSU. He was a terrific, one of the best man cover corners I ever scouted coming out of LSU. The injuries.
I was shocked he was available there at 61.
Right.
They got some decent value out of him maybe at 61. At times, he looked pretty good, right? This was by far his worst season of his career in 2023. And the other seasons had health issues or health injury concerns, but I thought he played well when he was on the field. This year was the opposite, right? He was a little healthier than usual. He did have some hamstring issues as usual, but he did not play well when he was on the field this season.
Yeah, which is appalling to see a player in a contract year have their worst season in the NFL when it's generally more injury-free than their other season. So just a disappointment across the board from the time he was drafted. What he could have been if he had reached his potential was something I'm going to lament quickly here, but yeah, Titans should not bring back Kristian Fulton. Next guy on the list, Trevis Gipson. I was so hyped for this signing when it happened back in August.
Barely played him.
And yeah, I don't know what it was, if he didn't pick up the scheme because he arrived in late August or if he just wasn't an impact player. I thought his pass rush win rate when he did get chances to rush the passer.
He was efficient.
He was super. He would have 3 pressures on 5 pass rushes or 1 sack on 3 pass rushes. He was putting up efficiency numbers. He just wasn't getting any kind of volume. If the new regime sees something in him that they think they can actually use, as opposed to just making him inactive half the games, I would be down for the Titans to work out something. Obviously, nothing super expensive for a guy that didn't really have the opportunity to produce, but didn't really produce last year. If they can bring him back, the Titans aren't deep at outside linebacker by any stretch, especially with Autry set to be a free agent, with Rashad Weaver not really blossoming into anything more than a rotational player every once in a while, with Harold Landry coming in. Harold Landry, Arden Key, and then your next guy, in my opinion, should be Trevis Gipson. I think that it would be beneficial to the depth of the defensive line if they can bring him back.
I think they're going to spend that time trying to develop Caleb Murphy, second year UDFA, similar role, similar type of player where you want him rushing the passer on as a DPR, right? Like designated pass rusher on third down. So I don't think Gipson will be back.
Okay, we'll see. I'm not super strong opinionated either way, but he was a fun player to make a highlight video for when the Titans traded for him. All right, next guy on the list, Joe Jones, linebacker. Another linebacker. There are 3 linebackers on this list between Azeez Al-Shaair, Joe Jones, and Jack Gibbens. He was kind of a Vrabel-y kind of guy, it felt like.
They brought him back multiple times, right? Multiple stints.
Yeah.
Good special teams player. I think he's one of those guys that probably gets lost in the shuffle of a regime change. I agree. Seemed like more of a Mike Vrabel, John Robinson guy. I like 3 or 4 different stints here, I feel like, at least. Especially if you count every transaction, right? But no, I can't imagine he'll be back.
Next guy on the list, picked up middle of this past season, Marlon Davidson. What do you think about him?
I'm a little biased because I liked him coming out. Didn't really live up to Auburn, I think. Didn't really live up to the hype. I think 58th overall. That was earlier than I thought he'd go, or in the 40s, maybe. I think it was 58th for some reason, or in the 40s. Hasn't lived up to that hype. Thought he played well here, man. They came in down the stretch where they had a slew of injuries on the D-line. Thought he made the most of his opportunity. He's going to be cheap. I know it's a different regime. Rand Carthon technically brought him in to a degree, but I think ultimately I'd be interested in bringing him back. I don't know that he will be back, but I'd personally be interested.
Yeah, I agree with that. The Titans need depth on the D-line. They need serviceable players there.
Boy, do they ever.
With just how many guys are hitting the market here. If they can bring him back on a reasonable deal, it's not something that's going to hype up Titans fans when they see the signing reported, but if it does go down, I think it will be beneficial. Next guy on the list, similar player, similar position, Ross Blacklock, who this past season played on his 5th team in 4 years, former pick of the Houston Texans. Same answer.
Yeah, another miss of mine, although I don't know that I missed on Davidson, but I really liked Blacklock coming out of TCU, man. It's just one of those things where it's like, this is a really good league, and some of these guys that look really good in college aren't good enough to thrive in the pros. And there's a lot that goes into it, relationships with coaching staffs, injuries, health, all that. But he's not a guy that's lived up. Like, I thought he played okay when he came in here to Tennessee at the end as well. That's why I think same answer applies. But I don't think he was quite as good as Marlon Davidson, but I thought he was okay. But one of those guys you maybe have on your 90-man roster in August,
Yeah, exactly. All right, next guy on the list was claimed off of waivers in October of this season.
Oh, I know who it is.
Yeah? Who is it?
Kayvon Wallace, right? The safety.
Wallace. Yep.
Claimed him off waivers like 2 days after they traded Kevin Byard. Knew they needed depth there. I guess similar answer to Terrell Edmunds, but I'll take it a step further. I thought he played better than Terrell Edmunds. I thought he's a bit more of a dynamic athlete than Edmunds is, so he's a bit more versatile. You could do more with him. I think he's the perfect number 3 safety. You're going to have depth at that position. Amani Hooker's been extremely injury prone throughout the course of his career. I think I did the math the other day. I think he's missed like 18 games in his last 3 seasons or something along those lines. Hooker has. You've got him and nothing else at safety right now. You're going to need to have 2 guys. At least re-sign one of your own and bring one in through free agency. I know Elijah Molden factors in there too a little, but I think I'd bring back one of Wallace and Edmunds for sure. And if it was up to me, it would be Wallace.
Yeah, if it was up to me, it'd be whoever you can sign for a cheaper contract. But yeah,
they're both going to be cheap.
Yeah, they will. That concludes the list of unrestricted free agents. There are no restricted free agents on this list, but there are 3 exclusive rights free agents, which if you listen to this version of the podcast that was on the offensive side of the ball, you know that means the Titans have a chance to offer these guys a 1-year deal at minimum salary, and if the Titans make that offer, this player either accepts that offer and plays for the Titans, or they do not play football this season. So the first guy that is an exclusive rights free agent is TK McLendon. Similar to Marlon Davidson, I would say, in terms of on-field play. Not anything special, but he was fine in his snaps that he got.
I bet you they'll make that offer. I mean, they seem to like how he came along, right? Like, he started actually playing, and I know some of that was due to injury, but he played towards the end of the year. I think he recovered a fumble or forced a fumble at one point. Like, he came on a little bit at the end of the year, so I would like to think that they want to continue working with his development.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think, when you're talking about retaining depth at low cost, like a minimum salary deal for 1 year for this guy, if you want to bring him back, he basically has no choice but to play for you. I think they should and would do that. Next guy on the list is Jack Gibbens. Dr. Gibby, as Mike Vrabel called him, 100% a Mike Vrabel guy, but with the exclusive rights free agent tag, with a lot of NFL snaps under his belt now,
brainer.
With nobody else to play linebacker, why would you not bring him back if you can?
No brainer. You're getting good value on that contract, right? He's played a lot of snaps, and he's a good 2 down, violent trigger downhill kind of guy. Like, no brainer at the ERFA price tag. No brainer.
Yeah, I agree. And the last guy on the list is Chris Williamson, a cornerback who the Titans have the exclusive rights free agency because he signed a reserve future contract with the Titans in January 2022, although he was waived and placed on injured reserve in August. So I don't know how they have his exclusive rights. He was originally a 7th-round pick of the New York Giants, didn't make the roster at a training camp, played 2 seasons with Atlanta, was with the Lions in the 2021 offseason, was with the Titans in the 2022 offseason. Somehow the Titans have his exclusive rights. I mean, I could see them letting this guy walk, given his history in the league and, not really ever playing. But if they like him as a depth cornerback, potential special teamer, and you can get him on a minimum deal for 1 year, why not? Other than that, I don't really know much about this guy.
I think this is the one ERFA they won't take advantage of and probably just let go and cut ties.
Yeah, that would make sense to me too. So that does it. We get it. Free agent defensive players. We went through all of them. We said the Titans should bring back 2 for sure if they can, in Azeez Al-Shaair and 1 of Terrell Edmunds or Kayvon Wallace. I'm in favor of bringing back Sean Murphy-Bunting. You're more on the fence. We're both sort of like meh on Marlon Davidson, Ross Blacklock. Jack Gibbens should probably be back. TK McLendon should probably be back. Trevis Gipson, maybe. The only hard no for us on this list was Kristian Fulton, which going into this exercise, I thought there'd be a couple more hard no's.
Well, for me, I mean, like I said, I think a lot of them, I'd be a no on one of the safeties. I'm probably a no on Blacklock, right? I mean, I'm closer to a no than a yes on Murphy-Bunting. We were a yes on Dina Coatri, though, as well, right? A couple of weeks ago. So that one factors in here, too.
Right. Yeah, I can't forget about that. Good call out. All right, that'll do it for this episode. Next week, NFL free agency begins.
Woo.
Monday is the legal tampering day, so we're going to hear about a lot of deals reported starting Monday. I think it's at 12 o'clock Eastern is when the window opens, 9 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. if you're in Nashville. And then on Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. in Nashville, officially the league year begins. The contracts can be inked to paper. And we're going to hear about a lot of them before Wednesday. We're going to hear about them Monday afternoon, Tuesday all throughout the day, Wednesday morning, and then things will start being official on Wednesday afternoon. So that is where we're at. We're going to try to do one more pod this week. Free agency preview? Thursday?
We could do a free agency preview, yeah.
Would that be of interest to you, Justin?
I think it would.
All right, we'll be back one more time this week on Thursday to do our free agency preview, looking at, with the tag deadline now behind us. We know exactly which guys are actually potentially going to be on the market. I mean, teams do still have till March 11th to continue negotiating with players they didn't tag, but we're going to get into cornerbacks the Titans could sign, but every position. Why not every position? But especially, I feel like the most important thing for the Titans to do in free agency is get reliable cornerback play. They're going to attack offensive line and wide receiver in the draft. I do think it's important to get quality offensive line play, guys that you can fill in as starters while your rookies come up to speed, or guys that can be your starters if they do sign a Michael Onwenu or a Tyron Smith or a Andre James or a Lloyd Cushenberry. Like, there are guys that the Titans are going to be probably going after. There's multiple defensive players that their coaching staff has ties to, whether it's a safety like Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, a linebacker like Patrick Queen. These guys are going to Ronald Darby at cornerback. Like, there are guys that have ties to the coaching staff that the Titans could be in on. So we're going to go through all that free agency preview later this week. But that does it for this episode. Justin, any final words?
No, I'm excited to get into the preview. I think the closer we get, we've probably been able to both, you and I, narrow down who our preferred targets would be. And I think that's what we should deliver on the next episode. Talk about our preferred targets in free agency. I've got a couple in mind already. I'm sure you do too. And it'll be interesting to see which one of us is more accurate, if any of us, and who they actually bring into the fold sometime next week.
Yeah, absolutely agree. So we'll be back later to do that. Until then, follow Justin on Twitter at JustinM_NFL. Follow me at Titans Film Room. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel. Turn on the notifications so that when our free agency preview drops, you get a notification, you get an alert, to go check us out on YouTube. If you're listening to us audio-wise, again, we do appreciate you, but we would appreciate it more if you were following the YouTube channel. Thank you very much. All right, we'll be back later. Until then, y'all stay safe out there and tighten up.
A Broadway sports media production.